Hello everyone, welcome to Jumbo IS. So today will be the day 8 of Geography MCQs and today's topic will be Physiography of India, in which we will cover all the types of Himalayas and the peninsular plateaus, Deccan Traps and northern plains, coastal plains and your islands. So these will be covered in today's MCQs. So let's start with the first MCQ. So first MCQ says what? Regarding the structural hierarchy of Himalayas, consider the following statements. First of all, we know that Himalayas are formed by the continental convergence between Indian plate and Eurasian plate. But these are just the case for Himalayas. If we talk about the Trans Himalayas, if this is your Eurasian plate, this was your Tethys Sea, and this was your Indian plate. So first what was happening that this continental plate and this oceanic Tethys plate was converging. So these plates were converging, and we know whenever the convergence of continental and oceanic plates are there, then there will be the types of compressional forces, and the plate will be subducted under the continental plate, and the magma will be formed, which is rich in silica, and ultimately create different volcanic forms. Okay, so yes, whenever this oceanic plate was subducting under this continental plate, there were the presence of volcanoes. So we still found that there were some evidences of volcanoes because these were basically formed when oceanic plate was subducting under your continental plate. Okay, so due to subduction of plate, volcanoes was there, and due to compressional forces, due to fold forces, the fold mountains were also formed, and those mountains are called trans Himalayas. So trans Himalayas are those Himalayas which are formed because of the convergence between continental and oceanic plates. Okay, so first this Tethys plate was totally destroyed, and then Eurasian and Indian plate, they were kind of converging with each other, and then Himalayas were formed. So first of all, Greater Himalayas were formed, then Middle Himalayas, and then ultimately Shivalik Himalayas. Greater Himalayas are higher in height; they are highest in height. They are also known as Himadris, and Middle Himalayas are lesser height than Greater Himalayas but more than Shivaliks. And Shivaliks are the youngest and the shortest mountain range in the total Himalayas. Okay, so first of all, the Trans Himalayas, and we know that Trans Himalayas have Karakoram, we have Ladakh, we have Zaskar ranges, and we have Kailash ranges. So these are the part of Trans Himalayas, are the northernmost ranges and are largely located in Tibet. No, these Trans Himalayas are Karakoram, Ladakh, and Zaskar. They are basically present in Tibet, yes, but they are also present in India as well. So if we know that if it was written that it is completely located in Tibet, then answer was the statement would have been wrong. But they are largely present in Tibet, then that is why the statement is right. Okay, so Karakoram, Ladakh, Zaskar ranges are the northernmost ranges which are largely located in Tibet. The Greater Himalayas, Himadri, are characterized by a symmetrical fold with a steep southern slope and gentle northern slope. If we know that this is your Indian plate, this is your Eurasian plate, and both the plates are converging with each other, and as the push is coming from the Indian plate, from the southern slope, then these folds are basically present here. This is the southern slope, this is the northern slope, and because of the push from the southern part from the Indian plate, then this area have become like this. The fold has been like this. The mountain, like the mountain should have been like this. Okay, but as the push is from the Indian plate, and this is your Eurasian plate, this is your northern slope, and this is your southern slope. Okay, so due to the push from the Indian plate, this slope has become like this. Okay, so that is why we say that they are convex towards the south, and that is why we say that these folds are asymmetrical in nature, and southern slopes are steeper and northern slopes are gentler as the push is from the Indian plate, from the southern side. That's why the statement number 2 is also right. The Shivaliks represent the oldest geological formations of the mountain system, consisting primarily of metamorphic rocks. Shivaliks are the youngest rocks and not the oldest rocks. Okay, whenever these two plates were converging, first of all, Greater Himalayas were formed, and again they are constantly colliding with each other, converging with each other. Then the Middle Himalayas were formed, and when Middle Himalayas were formed, then also push was on the greater Himalayas as well. So their height basically increases. So this mountain range have survived multiple strokes. Okay, and then there is Shivalik range which have survived least number of strokes, and that's why its height is the least. Okay, so greater Himalaya have a higher height and are oldest. Middle Himalayas are lesser height, lower age, and Shivaliks are the youngest and they have almost the least age from all the mountain ranges. Okay, so that's why the statement number third is wrong. So first two are right. How many of the statement above is correct? Then answer is your B, only two. Okay, next is with reference to syntaxial bends and tectonic movement, consider the following statements. These bends occur when the mountain ranges take sharp southward turn at Nanga Parbat and Namcha Barwa. Generally, Himalayas were like this, but this is the area where this is your Indian plate. This is the westernmost part of Indian plate. This is the easternmost part of Indian plate. And when it converged with the Eurasian plate, then ultimately all these Himalayas take a southward turn like this. If these are the Himalayas, then ultimately they form like this. These are the syntaxial bend. They are also called the hairpin bend or the U-turn by the Himalayas. This is your Nanga Parbat. This is your Namcha Barwa. And why it was so? Because the Indian plate was converging with the Eurasian plate, and the westernmost part where collided with the Eurasian plate, it ultimately created a bend which is known as Nanga Parbat bend. And Namcha Barwa is in China, but Namcha Barwa is the place from where Brahmaputra takes the U-turn and enters into India. Okay, so statement number one is right. The formation of these bends is the result of the clockwise rotation of Indian plate during its collision with the Eurasian plate. No, first of all, Indian plate collided with this area and then ultimately it moved to this direction. So ultimately what happened is, this is your Eurasian plate, this was your first Indian plate, it collided with this area and then it moves toward like this. So this was your anti-clockwise movement and not the clockwise movement of Indian plate, and it collided with this area which formed the Namcha Barwa, the syntaxial bend. So the clockwise rotation is wrongly written here. The answer should be anti-clockwise movement. The collision occurred approximately 50 million years ago during the Cenozoic era. Yes, you should remember the year that when Himalayas were starting to form. Okay, so from 50 million years ago to 10 million years ago, these are the 40 million years in which Himalayas were totally formed. And still the height of Himalayas is increasing because constant push is coming from the Indian plate or the southern slope areas. Okay, so first and third is right. So option is C. Next is match the following Himalayan fault thrust with their correct description. Number one, Indo-Sangpo Suchar zone. Indo is your Indus, Sangpo is your Brahmaputra. So Indo-Sangpo Suchar zone, main central thrust, main boundary thrust. So first of all, you should remember that this is your Tibetan plateau area. This is the greater Himalaya with higher height, lesser Himalaya with lesser height, and your Shivaliks with least height, and then it is Indo-Gangetic plain. So the whole Indian area is representing in this format. So the area between Tibet plateau and your greater Himalaya is known as the Indo-Sangpo Suchar zone. So when we know that these Himalayas are formed, these are the fold mountains, so ultimately there will be some fault here because the rocks are not completely together. They also have been some fault. So these faults are responsible for the constant and frequent earthquake in this area. Okay, so this is ITSZ. Then from greater to middle Himalayas, there is MCT, main central thrust zone. From middle to Shivalik areas, it has MBT, main boundary thrust. And from Shivaliks to ultimately Indo-Gangetic plain, we have HFF, Himalayan frontal fault. So these four faults are very, very important, which makes this Himalayan region very, very earthquake prone. Okay, so Indo-Sangpo Suture zone, primarily line of collision between Indian and Eurasian plate. Yes, this is the area where Indus and Brahmaputra river or the Indian and Eurasian plates are kind of separating with each other. Main central thrust, boundary between lesser Himalayas and Shivaliks. So MCT is basically between greater Himalayas and your lesser Himalayas, and not the Shivaliks and lesser Himalayas. So statement number 2 is wrong. Main boundary thrust, boundary between Greater Himalayas and Lesser Himalayas, no. These two are interchanged with each other. So only one is right. So option A, only one will be the answer. Next is, consider the following statements regarding the Kashmir and Kumaon Himalayas. We know that Kashmir Himalayas, in which all the kinds of Karewas are found, and Gulmarg, Sonmarg, the Marg, which we know that temperate areas where the grasslands are there, and it is responsible for the presence or the existence of all the grazing communities there. Okay, so first of all, the Kashmir Himalayas are famous for karewas, yes, which are glacial deposits ideal for saffron cultivation. Yes, these are basically the moraines which were brought by the glaciers by their retreatment. Okay, so statement number one is right. The Kumaon Himalayas, present in your Uttarakhand area, lies between Satluj and Kali River. So yes, this is your Uttarakhand area. The Satluj enters into India from Shipkila, and this is your Kali River, making the boundary between Uttarakhand and Nepal. So Satluj and Kali River between areas are known as Kumaon Himalayas. Temperate grasslands known as Marg in Kashmir and Bhogyal in Kumaon Himalayas. Yes, all three statements are right. So we know that what are temperate grasslands? The temperate grasslands are those areas which are very, very fit for grazing of different animals. Okay, so the livestock industry is totally predominating in this region. So all the statements are right. So option C, all three will be your answer. Next is regarding the eastern Sikkim or Arunachal Himalayas. Consider the following statements. In the Sikkim Himalayas, the Shivaliks are the almost absent or merged with the middle Himalayas. Yes, as we know that this is the Eurasian plate and Indian plate kind of collided in this anti-clockwise movement. So whenever this is anti-clockwise movement, this area collided with a very higher speed with this Eurasian plate, and that is why the gap as it's present in the western Himalayas, like this is your greater Himalaya, this is your middle Himalaya, this is your outer Himalaya, these gaps are not present in the eastern Himalayas, because at this area Indian plate collided with a very higher speed, and that is why these middle and outer Himalayas are kind of merged with each other. So the valleys are absent in this area between middle and outer Himalayas, because all the Himalayas are merged with each other. So the greater and middle Himalayas have some valleys with very, very higher depth. So yes, they are basically absent or merged with the middle Himalayas. The Arunachal Himalayas are characterized by zooming or shifting cultivation practiced by tribal communities. Yes, we know that shifting cultivation is whenever some patches of the forest is being cleared for the agriculture, and after 3 to 4 years the yield decreases because there is no use of fertilizers, no use of pesticides. So ultimately the soil becomes unfit for cultivation, so the tribal communities move to different directions, so that area will be left behind, and that is why this thing is called shifting cultivation. That cultivation is by shifting of different communities, because the soil fertility decreases even after 4 or 5 years. Okay, so duars are the alluvial floodplains found in Darjeeling or Sikkim region that acts as gateway to mountains. Duars are basically those alluvial floodplains which are brought by Brahmaputra river. So all the Shivaliks are there, and this is your Brahmaputra river. So these areas are known as duars. They are basically kind of gateway to the Himalayas, that from this area the Himalayas started from the Shivalik, then ultimately to greater or middle Himalayas. Okay, so yes, duars are the alluvial floodplains found in Darjeeling or Sikkim Himalayas region that acts as gateway to the mountain. All three statements are right. So statement D will be your answer. Next is with reference to Bhabar and Terai region. Consider the following statements. We know that Bhabar, Terai, Bangar and Khadar, these are the four floodplains, and from these four, your Bangar and Khadar are the alluvial floodplains. We know that Bhabar is the area which is present in the foothills of Himalayas, where the speed of the river kind of decreases, and it brought multiple types of rocks which is very large in nature. So that area is known as that region where large rocks are present and there is no soil there. So this area is very unfit for cultivation, and if trees are basically found in this region, then they would have a very deeper roots, so that it is not flown with the river water or the rock surfaces. So first of all, the Bhabar belt is more extensive in the eastern Himalayas than in the western Himalayas. No, if this is your whole Himalayan region from Himachal Pradesh to ultimately Arunachal Pradesh, this is your Bhabar zone. So Bhabar zone is between like this 8 to 10 kilometer width. So its width is more in western Himalayas and it decreases in your eastern Himalayas. So statement number 1 is wrong. The width of Bhabar belt is more in western than in eastern Himalayas. The Terai region is wider in the east because of high rainfall from Bay of Bengal branch of the monsoon. So below Bhabar, we have Terai region where saltation load is deposited by the river. In Bhabar area, it has deposited the traction load. We have known that traction, saltation, suspension and solution loads are basically what? So when river deposits these loads depending upon its speed, so we all already have discussed those topics. Okay, so in the saltation load, this region will become Terai region. Bhabar is known as the river disappearance zone because there is the presence of multiple rock surfaces or larger rocks. So a kind of area is known like the river is flowing in between the rocks and pebbles and gravels. Okay, so this Terai is known as the zone of river reappearance because here the size of rocks is very small, and that's why river is shown to be reappeared in this area. Okay, so statement number 2 is also right. Agriculture is difficult in Bhabar, yes, because there is the rocky surfaces where Terai has been largely reclaimed for crops like sugarcane and rice. Terai is the region where there is kind of muddy or the swampy regions. So the amount of forests are very larger in number. So all the animals which are larger in their size and shapes, which required more amount of water for the survival, like rhinoceros, the big buffaloes, hippopotamus, they are basically found in this Terai region. Okay, so the forests are being cleared for the cultivation, so that land has to be reclaimed. It is not fit for agriculture as such. It has to be reclaimed first, and then ultimately it should be made fit for the cultivation. Okay, so yes, agriculture is difficult in Bhabar, whereas Terai has been largely reclaimed for crops like sugarcane and rice because these crops require kind of swampy or muddy soils. Okay, so 1 was wrong, 2 and 3 was right, so answer will be your B, 2 and 3. Next is consider the following statements regarding Bhangar and Khadar soil regions. Bhangar represents the older alluvium, yes, that forms terraces above the current floodplains and often contains calcareous deposits such as kankars. Yes, these are called the calcareous deposits of calcium carbonates. So Bhangar region is that area where sometimes floods were there, but now the floods are not there, and because it is present in the higher altitude areas, so frequent flooding is not the phenomena of Bhangar area. So once older alluvium was deposited here, so the newer alluvium is not brought by the river every year. Okay, so yes, it is older alluvium. Khadar deposits of newer alluvium. Yes, that area is basically this is basically that region where constant floods are basically frequent in this area, and every year river brought different alluvium, sand, silt, and clay, which make this soil fit for cultivation. Deposited by annual river floods, yes, making it the most fertile soil zone for intensive agriculture. The statement is right. While Bhangar contains fossils of large animals like elephants and rhinoceros, Khadar is characterized by its clayey composition and lack of organic matter. Khadar is very rich in organic matter because older alluvium is not there. Every time there will be newer alluvium, and there will be the presence of crops, the trees, and etc. So whenever the amount of trees are more organic matter will be in the soil. So that statement is wrong. First is right, well, while Bhangar contains fossils of large animals, but the second one is wrong. So statement 1 and 2 are right, so option A will be your answer. Next is match the following doabs of